underway with everything, but before we get into the PC side of things, a quick note about the Xbox. For those of you that have been playing on Xbox, it is going to be patching up to the Ratatasker patch here in the next couple days, and you can find those patch notes available on YouTube at /SmiteGame, youtube.com/SmiteGame. You can check those out with Scott and Amanda. And, well, in addition to that, on Xbox, we also have a promotion going on our Instagram, which you can find at instagram.com/SmiteGame. Following us on Instagram will get you an Xbox One beta key. That's on its way as well. So if you don't have that key yet and you're looking to get into it and you like cool pictures with filters, I guess Instagram is a place for you with Smite. Follow us there and see all of our shenanigans and all of the crazy happenings going on behind the scenes on our Instagram. Well, let's go ahead and start talking about the patch a little bit here, and generally speaking, what you can expect from what we're going to be going over today. So a little bit of tell you what I'm going to tell you here. We're going to be going through the God art changes first, as we often do, talking about new God cards, new models, those types of things, any skins and any voice packs coming in. And then we'll get into the details on what the changes are for balance, primarily around kind of more the meta, so to speak. We'll go in a little bit about what that means, what we're going to do with it. A little bit of God balance changes, not so much in this patch, just a couple of notes on that. And then we'll get into Robin, and we'll take a look at his kit fully in the game and have a brief interview with the designer on that God, who is, of course, Mr. Fishman. So, with that, guys, let's go ahead and start talking about what's in this patch. It is called Combo Breaker. And let's talk about the first thing up on the docket. It's Ao Kuang, the Dragon King, and his Tier 2 skin, as you can see, now resplendent with antlers. And yeah, one of the cooler God cards. I mean, this looks like the front of a comic book to me. But yeah, not significant changes as you would come to expect out of the Tier 2 skins, but some nice updates and some little bit of badassery added to him here. And it looks like he's lost the top of the robe and is going at bare-chested and bringing the fury. So yet another, another one in the line of these Tier 2 skins that, for me at least, are some of the cooler things we add to the game each patch. Very, very affordable and give you a new little flavor and taste to your God. Let's take a look now at Yi getting a new skin in this patch. And this, of course, we'll get into this a little bit later, but this is a reward for playing in our fantasy game. And there is his skin card. And you can see a little bit of a different mark. We spoiled this in the last show last week, and here he is in action. You can see a little bit of that new tech on his leaf that you guys got in the last patch. And, of course, his new suns. They look like what are those, missiles, rockets, something? He's shooting down satellites, I believe, in fact, here. Nuclear bombs. Nuclear, one of those, flying out of the sky, and of course you know who you get pretty well, but there he is. I called him Orbital Biker. That is, of course, not his name. But let's take a listen to his voice pack, this new ROM skin coming in, 4 fantasy points. Take it away, boys.
Yes, I am the reckoning. Splendid. Sorry. Wasn't that fun? Good luck. Be quiet now. That's too bad. Spend your time wisely. Silence, dog. Your only purpose is to die by my hand. I use a bow because guns are too quick. You can't savor all the little emotions. You other gods are a plague. I am the cure.
And he's got a pretty nice idle animation at that, doesn't he? So you heard the voice pack there. And saw him toss his bow around a little bit as well. So Yi's skin is going to be available. More details on exactly how you can get it, but it will be through the Pick'em system. And another addition to the game, my friends, Quicksilver Mercury. You know this skin is his recolor. Sweet new card. There it is, a little bit more actiony. I think this was the one, if I recall correctly, where he was like making that big cheesy grin in the forefront of the card. And so you can see actually similar kind of theme here with like showing his path, almost like family. My God, is it beautiful? We've really outdone ourselves here. Moving on to the next asset here. You'll have to take a look at my lovely face is what you're going to get to see. So here I come right now. Hey, there I am. So let's talk about the announcer packs being added to the game. So these are also rewards through the fantasy system. And as I've been saying, kind of through the Yi skin, we'll be taking a look at exactly how you can earn these in the later parts of this patch note show. But for now, let's take a listen to Nox's announcer pack. This was voted on you guys by the community, but yeah, if you guys would go ahead and play it,
They thought they could keep the lights on. Darkness has come. You can't kill what you can't see. Sleep tight. Pentakill!
Oh.
Pentakill!
So scary. So yeah, there it is, guys. Nox's announcer pack. There's a quick preview coming your way. More to come in the future as well. We also have a second voice pack that'll be available through that fantasy system. It is, of course, for the most voted god for a announcer pack by a complete landslide. It is, of course, Swagny. Let's take a listen.
Oh, hey, make it rain. I love it when they call me Big Papa. If it don't make dollars, then it don't make sense. I'm not OP, I'm OG. You keep talking like a bitch, I'm gonna have to smack you like one.
And there it is, guys. Swagny's announcer pack, as per usual. Over the top, yet wonderful. And, of course, coming into this next patch as well in the miscellaneous category. We won't actually go through this in line, but those announcer packs will only be playable for you on your client side. So let's take a look at the actual reward structure and how you're going to be able to get these rewards. So as you can see here, guys, starting up with the Void Worm skin that was available, and of course they've unlocked everything, so you can't see how many points it takes because production is really, really clever. But yeah, you can see Iron Crow coming. I think these are, I want to say we're at 4,000 now, and I think it goes up by thousands alternating there. So also you'll notice in this system is the ability to unlock fantasy points with money. Hey, who didn't want to buy skins to begin with? So of course you are still welcome and encouraged to use it for all of your fantasy betting purposes to continue to grow and amass your fantasy points. But we will say now that, yeah, you can also buy your way into this one. And you can see, yeah, those rewards escalate. You can get the Hu Yi skin and the loading frames and those announcer packs all now available through the Fantasy Point season ticket system. And the new loading frames, as you can see there as well, top and bottom, a little bit different. The Incinerator Agni looking so nice there. And those are pretty early on. Gold and diamond rewards for the higher you get through the season ticket program. And, of course, they evolve at different levels. So the frame that you already have will turn golden and eventually platinum. And another thing to note here, guys, is that these rewards are going to, what's the right word for this? Retroactively apply to your account, I guess. If you already have, 7,000, 8,000 fantasy points amassed, the rewards will automatically unlock for you, or they'll be available to unlock for you. You don't need to continue earning past this point. So, whole bunch new stuff coming that way. Let's take a look at the events tab in the UI here. You can see this is part of the season ticket. There's a lot more coming here. You guys will be able to explore that once the patch ships. But we do want to point out to you here during this preview is that you'll notice that there is a split option now when picking matchups. So instead of having to choose that Team A wins game 1 and Team B wins game 2, it's simply that the teams will go 1-1 instead of having to pick the order and getting it wrong more often than not and making yourself angry. So, yeah, now it's either pick Team A, Team B, or a split to get awarded your fantasy points. So nice of us. We're so caring. We want you guys to earn your skins, not have to buy them all the way. And yeah, you can see you can click through them. So a little bit of a different UI approach here and some more cool stuff. A few miscellaneous changes, guys, coming in. I already mentioned the announcer packs will only play on the local side. And we went through most of the other changes in the UI systems for the season ticket. And that is your lovely miscellaneous changes coming in the patch. There's a lot more that you can read as well at home when they do release. When we are concluded here, they will be available on Reddit at our Smite, as well as our official forums. Well, the Reddit will just link to our official. But you can go there, forums.smitegames.com, if you really want to see what's up. So, moving right along, guys. Going a little bit more into the meat of the patch here. Let's start talking a little bit more about, well, let's go into the game and take a look at it here. We're talking about conquest changes here. So, let's see. First up, I believe we are going to be talking specifically about the major map objectives, meaning, of course, the Gold Fury and the Fire Giant, and how they will interact with players and, more specifically, lifesteal. So, in this patch coming up, you will see that there is a just flat reduction on objectives and lifesteal. So, you simply put lifesteal 50% of the value against the Gold Fury and the Fire Giant. Generally speaking, this is going to be slowing down the timings of who, what, where, when, and why can solo the Gold Fury. So, a little bit more maybe like Season 0, where characters like Bastet and Arachne were really the ones you were seeing that were killing the Gold Fury using their minions and things to tank it up instead of straight lifesteal here. But as you're about to see at the 10-second mark, we have gone ahead and what's the right way to put this? Re-added? No, I don't think. Reverted the change to the mid camps here. You'll see the gold camps at the mid lane will spawn at 10 seconds now, in addition to all the other buffs. So a little bit more diversity in the opening, and you'll see them come up here. Another change coming through in this patch is Greater Sprint. Greater Sprint getting some a nerf, really. No other way to put that. So this item is it grants you a bunch of extra bonus movement speed, and also made it so that you did not have an in-hand firing penalty when it was being used at Tier 3. That has simply put been removed. You no longer will be able to use this item as quite such a good gas pedal steroidal offensive ability. Sprint was very good, is and is purchased, generally speaking, in the laning phase as a defensive tool. And then transitions a little bit too well into an offensive tool. So you're seeing really what makes it such a good offensive tool, again, being removed in favor of this item being a little bit more specialized. And of course, this goes hand in hand with a buff to Fatalis, which will include a 2-second removal of the in-hand penalty instead of the 1 as per normal. And as you can see there, on her, one of the main things that you're noticing, or you should be noticing, is that his ability to in-hand and backpedal at the same time has been reduced fairly significantly with the removal of the in-hand penalty removed. So double negative there. It's no longer on the damn item. You can't backpedal and fire at the same time. Let's take a look at the Gold Fury, though. As you can see, this lovely on here does have Life Steal. And Gold Fury will simply just give him half the life steal that he would normally receive. She also is going to be changed to act more like Titans in terms of her interaction with player deployables. So gone are the days of, well, yeah, kiting her around the on her pillar. She will now act just like the the Titans on either side, the Chaos and the Order Titan. They walk through player deployables. So Amir walls, Thor walls, on her pillars, those types of things will no longer stop the Gold Fury's movement. And you life steal 50% of the value against her. Worth noting as well, the Fire Giant, when he throws boulders at you, it does debuff your healing by 30% already. So life stealing against the Fire Giant, if you are his primary target, means an 80% reduction in healing and or specifically life stealing, and a 30% reduction in healing overall. So near complete shutdown of your ability to life steal against major map objectives. Now, let's talk about the Hand of the Gods in the jungle and exactly how this is all going to work out. So as you can see here, it's our lovely friend Ao Kwang. And, well, he's going to jungle. So, Hand of the Gods, rank 1. The main thing that you'll notice here is that this only hits the highest HP target and will only hit 1 target in any given camp. So, no longer can this item be used for, well, I guess lane dominance, and no longer will it be such an effective clearing tool against targets that only have single target damage in the early game. So, limiting a little bit your pool of junglers, making gods like maybe Bakasur and Arachne a little bit more attractive with their natural jungling abilities. And overall, really forcing characters to buy into Hog 2 that want to jungle. As you'll see with Hog 2, is that Hog 2 now will give you the ability to kill 2 minions. So it goes from 1 to 2 as you rank the item up, and your ability to take mid-camps now will be dependent upon your Hog 2. Let's talk a little bit about wards before we go into Hog 3 and its interaction with the major map objectives. As you notice here, Ao Kwang still able to purchase 3 wards, 2 basic wards and 1 sentry, but can only place 2 on the map now. In addition to that, normal wards or basic wards have a them. And overall, and yeah, please place this ward, and you'll see that the ward does disappear right next to it. So you can only have 2 active wards out on the map as a time now for any player, down from 3. You can still carry 3, and wards grant a 50 gold bounty as well. So this makes as I was saying, kind of the meta game for the Guardians maybe a bit more interesting, the counter-warding game becoming a little bit more rewarding for them as well. And in addition to all of this, it should clear up some of the vision on the map, making the lanes more gankable, quote-unquote, in the laning phase, especially and as the lanes break. So, again, kind of you can see a lot of how these changes are going is kind of incentivizing a lot more action in the jungle. So we'll take this back camp here quickly on the Ao Kwang. Well, probably not that quickly because it does only have that Hog 1. And I'll talk about the timers here. So the timers have changed around the map here. It's a modest change, but a meaningful one. I think the main thing that we're showing here is that these back camps spawn at an 80-second interval. So that's been brought down. They're going to be up a lot more. In fact, all of the camps are spawning a little bit faster here. Let's take a look at the Hog 2. You'll see, boom, it hit 2 guys. Always the highest HP target of the lot. And then one of the smaller ones, that's a Hog 2. Obviously still will have the exact same viability, I guess to say, against the mid camps when they spawn. So the interior camps, the red and the orange camp, are going to spawn at a faster rate now, in addition to the back camp spawning a bit faster. So for those of you that aren't among the 25 of us that have played this, I can tell you that it's very difficult to have your jungle fully cleared at all times. There's a lot more to do and seemingly a lot more opportunity cost around what you should be doing when, where, why, and how. So again, you see that Hand of the Gods being demonstrated there. And that takes us into, I think, the Hand of the Gods 3, which we should talk about. This item has been changed a little bit. So Wrath of the Gods, as it was known, was basically a kind of all-inclusive trump for objectives. Because of its execute at a high threshold, no individual god could deal enough damage to really contest a Wrath of the Gods if only one team had it. So what we've done here is, well, let's take a look at the tooltip in a little bit more detail here. The item now deals 480 true damage, just like all the other Hand of the Gods. It'll hit 3 minions maximum, so up to 3 now with Wrath. And yeah, the target's always the one with the highest health, blah, blah, blah. But it deals 900 damage now to jungle bosses. Subsequent effects from the team on the same target will deal 50% damage, and a 60-second cooldown. So basically what this is getting at here is that now mid-game, late mid-game, big ultimates, big mage ultimates, something like an Ao Kuang ultimate or a Kukulkan ultimate or a Ra ultimate, very, very high power ults now have a chance to potentially, contest these big damage abilities. Hey, look, an objective steal. Nice. But yeah, so the Hog will no longer be this kind of be-all, end-all trump, right? If you think back to kind of pre-Season 0, the road to 100K kind of season where you'd see these, big mid-lane mages, Vulcan, Kukulkan, Ra, that we see less and less of now, really contesting those objectives, Fire Giants especially. So a little of that gameplay coming back in, and of course now that the health bar does update to yellow when the target is at 900 HP. And yeah, so a lot of changes going on in the jungle, a lot more to do, a lot more where, when, and why. So Heavenly Agility, a small nerf just to kind of put it more in sync with Sprint. This item started to really be favored in Sprint 2, or Split 2, I'm sorry, towards the end. 1 second removed from its duration simply to just to match Greater Sprint's value a little bit better. A small downward adjustment to Heavenly Agility. The Hasten Fatalis, I touched on this earlier as part of the Greater Sprint conversation. Basically, the passive for this item has been doubled from 1 second of negated in-hands to now 2 seconds of negated in-hand. In-hand penalty, I guess I should say. In Smite, when you basic attack, you get slowed by 50%. Hasten Fatalis says that if you hit a target for 2 seconds, you will not be slowed again for in-handing. Chin size. Chin size, basically straight up a price reduction. Very similar to the price increase that it saw at the beginning of this season in Season 2. Big change a little bit for Split 3 to just shake things up a little bit, allow for a little bit more of an aggressive anti-HP stacking item that fits a little bit easier into builds. No real insight into this except for that the item wasn't being purchased enough, and well, why not revert it? Stooge of the Magi, there's a little bit more meat to this change here. Again, it's very similar in terms of the fact that it's a reversion. However, this item now does provide 10 flat penetration. So that's really the big difference here, is that I think there was a little bit of a concern that mages were not going to be as powerful in the early stages and into the mid-game. So kind of once the laning phase was near done, level 8, 9, 10, and going into the early stages and mid-stages of the mid-game, which I guess is kind of fun, they now have a little bit better opportunity to blow up some of these warriors and guardians and make those mages a little bit more dangerous, I guess, through the mid-game. And let's now move over to the Magi's Blessing, another Magi item, but this time out of the defensive tree. This item has seen a price increase. In addition to that, the passive has been increased to 90 seconds before it can reproc. So basically what we're getting at here is that Magi's Blessing, as you saw at the end of Split 2, was really being relegated to this kind of obligatory luxury item where everybody was buying it. All classes, all characters were buying it in their 4th, 5th, or 6th slot. It just gave you so much and made your ability to not be controlled in fights so high. And with its low cooldown on its proc that does grant 1 second of CC immunity, it was activating multiple times in a fight, and that's kind of why you see the passive adjusted, and then the price adjustment is to kind of put a little bit more towards that luxury. So let's go ahead and move on to the Heartseeker. So Heartseeker, this item is going to be changed and really refined a little bit more towards its real intended design, which is you buy this item if you think you're better than the other player that's facing you in the lane. And it's simple as that. You now will be buying the Heartseeker and getting stacks, much, much, much more valuable stacks at that, per player kill. This item no longer will stack for farming. You know, it basically just makes it a little bit maybe more attractive to assassins, potentially for snowballing, and really the analogous change will be made to the Doom Orb as well. Both of these items will now do this style of stacking, which is based on kills, no longer on creep score or creep kills. And again, yeah, if you think you're better, then buy this item because it's going to help you stay better than that other player, I suppose. So, Doom Orb and Heartseeker now for only truly the thrill seekers. No longer is it really a safe alternative to some of the other items. But now, welcome back, guys, to the set here. Joining me is the one and only Daniel Fishman, a.k.a. Hi-Rez Fish, a.k.a. designer for Robin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Robin, coming into the game, guys, you have seen, I'm sure, some of the art being spoiled, some of the cool stuff coming out from him. We'll go into detail of his kit here a little bit, but before we get too deep into it, let's talk quickly through, generally speaking, what the overall goals for this god are. I know that when we talked about him last week, we said, or 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, we said this god is really inspired by fighting game characters and kind of melee hand-to-hand combat. So tell me a little bit more about Robin, what you were trying to do, and what you think we accomplished.
Yeah, so with Robin, he's got this interesting backstory where he starts out as this monk, and then he turns into this unstoppable warrior. Right, so we wanted to bring that home. We kind of used the monk archetype from like D type stuff that a lot of games feature, and so he was our best opportunity to do that.
Sweep the leg.
Yeah, totally. and with that, like we were looking at fighting games. Like, okay, we want a very visceral, like up in your face, hand to hand type god, and that's what we got with Robin.
So you can see in his recall there, representing kind of some of his lore. So through not only the passive meter and the recall there. So can you break that down a little bit about how this ties into Robin's lore?
Yeah. So Robin is half demon, and he, as part of that, has 10 heads and 20 arms. So the arms got worked into one of his abilities, and his heads got worked into both his passive as well as his recall animation.
So as you can see, guys, we have a lot of attack speed items on Robin here. He's going pretty fast. But so yeah, tell me a little about what we're seeing here with this passive meter.
So with the passive meter, you build it up by attacking enemies. It shouldn't apply on some targets, but for the most part, you hit somebody with an in-hand, and then you hit someone with a basic attack, and then you fire your 1 for bonus damage on the 1.
Okay, so that stacks up to 8 times for bonus damage.
That's correct.
Now, is it applying 8 additional instances of damage, or is it just strictly bonus damage?
It is modifying. It's you're basically doing 1.8 or 1.6 actually. Sorry.
Okay.
Times your 1's damage.
So it's and that's after it calculates the scaling.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so it's base damage plus scaling, then the multiplier.
Yep.
So it actually, your 1 will start hitting very, very hard.
It will.
So his first ability, let's talk a little bit about that, guys. If you could just mouse over the tooltip quickly. Or actually, could you hit the K screen? I want to see the art that we've done. Let's see if they'll do it for us. Hey, cool, look at that. So you can see the icons a little bit bigger. So his first ability is...
Pana Onslaught.
The Onslaught here. So this is... and speaking of D&D, this is very much kind of like a burning hand style of touch spell.
Yep,
Let's take a look at it in action, guys. Let's take a look at his first ability here and see exactly what we're getting ourselves into. So let's stack that passive back up and fire that bad boy onto some targets. And you can see, oh man, it's like, is it actually giant hands?
It is giant hands. Yep.
How wonderful is that? So all right, you can see the passive going up and then fire the ability, and it is literally a like little tiny cone in front of you.
Yep, it's almost exactly a basic attack cone, except it hits all targets in range. And
so it fills the cone, similar to a Wheelix or many of the hit chain characters, Naja, those types of things.
Yep.
So it's a modified bonus power basic attack that fills a cone.
Exactly right.
Okay, great. What's the cooldown on that ability?
Cooldown is 6 seconds. You're supposed to be able to use that over and over.
Okay, yeah. So it really does kind of become part of your hit chain. So
yep.
1, 2, 3, 4 hit, kind of stack your passive quickly and then dump it using the 1. Very cool. Let's talk about a second ability then. As we move past the onslaught and into the overhead kick. Yeah, I think fighting game fans are going to recognize this one. Generally speaking, I know how this one functions. It's fairly similar to Chang'a's number 2 in terms of the benefits that it grants you, but it has an offensive component as well.
Right.
So let's go ahead and fire that one, Fishman, and tell me a little bit about the design and ultimately implementation of this ability.
Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to bring to our arsenal of warriors was an ability to resist burst damage, and that's what this is for. Is if you time it correctly, you're supposed to be able to dodge a raw snipe or that kind of mage heavy burst for this brief invulnerability, as well as you can use to clear the lane as well.
Oh, and yeah, you do get, just like Chang'a's number 2, it does remove, it looks like the back pedal penalty, as well as potentially sideways movement. So it's a pretty good, it looks like it's a pretty interesting ability to not only deal damage, but kite as well as avoid damage.
Right,
so, big turnaround spell.
It's a very short duration of the movement augmentation, but it's a very powerful one.
We're talking about flash kick.
Yeah.
Essentially here. I mean, it's very similar, right? It's kind of this defensive tool or defensive setup, kind of bait them in, use it, avoid the damage, deal damage back.
Yep.
And it's almost like a trump in many ways.
Warriors are supposed to be in the middle of the fight, and if that's where the bursts are directed, he needs a tool to deal with that, and this is his tool.
He's got the tool. So what we've seen so far, very melee-oriented, lots of basic attack focus, very short cone, and ability to avoid some damage. Let's take a look at his third ability as well. This is, again, Robin, and I'm Bart, and I'm joined by Fishman, the designer on this. And this is the 10-hand Shadow Fist. Tell me a little bit about this one.
Yeah, so this is, again, playing into his lore of having many hands. He sends a number of them out to attack his enemy. and then more of them come out from the ground to kind of keep them rooted there. This is kind of a catch-up tool. If he's chasing somebody, he has no movement augmentation. Instead, he's just locking them down, hopefully giving him enough time to catch up and drop his melee.
Okay, we take a look at the targeter for this ability here. All right, so you see it's a line attack, and if this hits, it roots.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so it's actually a little bit like Sikkim in that regard.
Yep.
Projectile speed-wise.
A
little faster?
A little fast. Not fastest in the game fast, but pretty fast. Yeah.
Fast side. Yeah, I mean, a little different than Sikkim, right? Sikkim for Scylla obviously is a mage ability, but also has, I believe, the slowest projectile time, or projectile speed in the game. So, and what is this? How viable is this as a damaging ability?
It's pretty effective if you're laning, right?
Right.
But it's more used, especially as the game goes on, for CC. It doesn't scale particularly well.
And that's just a root, not a cripple.
Just a root. Not
just
a
a root.
Yep, you can leap out of it.
And it has a healing component.
Yes, that's right. Enemies it passes through up to 3 minions and up to 1 god give him health return based on level you're at.
Okay, and that's static, or is that scale as well?
I mean, it's percentage-based health return. So
okay, so it's a life steal.
Yeah,
it's a built-in life steal almost.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So a little bit of sustain, a little bit of crowd control on the same ability. You know, obviously you can see the trade-off that could happen there,
Yeah,
and you can see a little bit of the combo here as well.
We're expecting players in solo lane to kind of make this their bread and butter, whereas players in the jungle are probably going to use the 1.
Yeah.
So if you're in the lane, this can sustain. It stops on the first enemy god, but pretty potent tool.
What is that hit chain? Very fast.
I believe it's 0.5, 0.75, 1.
Okay, yeah. So really, what I at least my gameplays, I feel like hit chains that ramp up, right, seem to be the most effective for meleeers.
Yep.
And so he's got what I would call one of the better or kind of one of the best types of hit chains you could have for a close range, high attack speed melee damage dealer. Almost similar to how Loki's hit chain progresses in that regard. Let's talk about his ultimate, which I basically kind of sold me on the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
It's Ganondorf. I mean, that's pretty much all I got for you.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this thing. So you can see it's got that kind of Loki-style targeter where it indicates that you're going to hit somebody. And let's go ahead and fire it, and it looks like that it's going to pass through here. Yes, indeed, it does. So, yeah, he pretty much just lunges at his target unit, ignoring all others, knocking them back, and then hits them hard.
Yep. And then once he's in there, again, so he can kind of be up in the thick of it, he's got damage reduction from everybody but his target. So that target's still perfectly able to damage him, but the other enemies on the team are going to do reduced damage while that effect is up.
What's the cooldown on this ability?
It goes down. I believe it's
scaling down. Okay.
Yeah, I believe it starts pretty high and then gets down to like 60, 70.
So this is really his only ability to kind of. So you root them, and then you have one other tool to kind of close the distance, and then besides that, not much else going on.
And this one's on an old-sized cooldown. So ideally, you'd probably want something like ult in, root them before they can get away, and then by that point, use your
in hands, drop a 1, stack it up quickly.
Stay on them.
Well, this god is awesome. I really think he's very cool. Well done, Fishman, for your first entrant into the into the Smite game.
Yep.
Lore Pantheon, I guess. All things told here, before we get into the voice pack and before we kind of listen to a little bit more of the flavor of this god, I always like to ask kind of what was some of the stuff that you threw out with this god that we tried that didn't work.
Yeah. He originally on his ult had him do extra damage to his target, and what else? We had we played back and forth with adding and removing CC. We had a stun on at one point. We were talking about having his 2 be a leap. We were talking about having his ult be a leap. But ultimately, this is what we settled on as the most fun. Visceral.
Right on. And technically, his ult is a dash, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it doesn't pass through walls, doesn't do those types of things.
Nope.
Simply just dashes at the target unit.
Which the targeter you're gonna have to learn. The targeter looks like it's the kind of thing you can go over a wall.
Yeah,
but you have to have line of sight.
Okay, so it does. So you can't go over something like a Thor wall or an Amir wall.
Right.
Okay, great. Well, guys, that's your insight, your dev insight into Robin. Let's take a listen to his voice pack and learn a little bit more about the character of this character.
Bravo! I am invincible. Excellent indeed. Sorry. Good game. Fortune smile upon you. Silence! That's too bad. Devils, take it! Savor this. Don't expect me to wish you health and long life. You will have neither. I stop the very sun and moon in the sky, you should be no problem.
All right, guys, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the voice pack for Robin. Let's take a look at his recolor as well here, and you can see, oh, there he is. He's recolored. Lovely. Doesn't he look nice? A little bit of blue going on there. What kind of, like, do you have any input from the design side on what the recolor for your release guide looks like?
Not a whole lot.
I always wondered that, because it's like, man, you know what? I really just don't like blue.
No, it's we have a really talented design, or really talented team of artists.
Yeah,
and they
absolutely.
basically like, okay, so if we wasn't trying to be accurate, what would look the coolest on it? Right?
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And yeah, kind of one more kind of, I guess, overarching question a little bit about kind of the design process is always, like, it's always interesting to hear a little bit about kind of the concept to initial design process and the iterative process there. So, you know, was he always going to be a warrior? Like, was it like, Robin's a warrior, we saw his concept and it was like, this guy is it?
He was always going to be a warrior.
Yeah, okay, cool.
He just looks warrior, he is warrior.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess his lore doesn't really leave a lot of room for interpretation. He pretty much fights, and that's pretty much all he does. Well, guys, that does do it for us here for the patch notes. And thank you very much, Fishman, for joining us and giving your insight. You can find him at Hi-Rez on Twitter. You can find me at Hi-Rez Bart. Feel free to reach out, guys, if you need anything. That does not do it for us here today, though. We'll be tossing it over to our analysis desk, where it will be the one and only Dry Bear, DM Brandon, and Pon Pon. They're going to be breaking down some of these changes in a little bit more detail and going through expected changes you may see, some gameplay implications, and ways that you can get ahead, guys. So don't go anywhere. Let's take it right now, where Pon Pon, you'll notice, has no beard, like Fishman and I, but he's rocking it the worst out of the three of us. Guys, take it away, Rory. It's all yours.
Thanks, Bart. And yes, as you can see, both
Away with everything, but before we get into the PC side of things, a quick note about the Xbox. For those of you that have been playing on Xbox, it is going to be patching up to the Ratatasker patch here in the next couple days, and you can find those patch notes available on YouTube at /SmiteGame, youtube.com/SmiteGame. You can check those out with Scott and Amanda. And, well, in addition to that, on Xbox, we also have a promotion going on our Instagram, which you can find at instagram.com/SmiteGame. Following us on Instagram will get you an Xbox One beta key. That's on its way as well. So if you don't have that key yet and you're looking to get into it and you like cool pictures with filters, I guess Instagram is a place for you with Smite. Follow us there and see all of our shenanigans and all of the crazy happenings going on behind the scenes on our Instagram. Well, let's go ahead and start talking about the patch a little bit here, and generally speaking, what you can expect from what we're going to be going over today. So a little bit of tell you what I'm going to tell you here. We're going to be going through the God art changes first, as we often do, talking about new God cards, new models, those types of things, any skins and any voice packs coming in. And then we'll get into the details on what the changes are for balance, primarily around kind of more the meta, so to speak. We'll go in a little bit about what that means, what we're going to do with it. A little bit of God balance changes, not so much in this patch, just a couple of notes on that. And then we'll get a little bit as well. So Hirez's skin is going to be available. More details on exactly how you can get it, but it will be through the Pick'em system. And another addition to the game, my friends, Quicksilver Mercury. You know this skin is his recolor. Sweet new card. There it is, a little bit more action-y. I think this was the one, if I recall correctly, where he was like making that big cheesy grin in the forefront of the card. And so you can see actually similar kind of theme here with like showing his path, almost like family. My God, is it beautiful? We've really outdone ourselves here. Moving on to the next asset here. You'll have to take a look at my lovely face is what you're going to get to see. So here I come right now. Hey, there I am. So let's talk about the announcer packs being added to the game. So these are also rewards through the fantasy system. And as I've been saying, kind of through the Hirez skin, we'll be taking a look at exactly how you can earn these in the later parts of this patch note show. But for now, let's take a listen to Nox's announcer pack. This was voted on you guys by the community. But yeah, if you guys will go ahead and play it,
They thought they could keep the lights on. Darkness has come! You can't.
Into Robin, and we'll take a look at his kit fully in the game and have a brief interview with the designer on that god, who is, of course, Mr. Fishman. So, with that, guys, let's go ahead and start talking about what's in this patch. It is called Combo Breaker, and let's talk about the first thing up on the docket. It's Ao Kuang, the Dragon King, and his Tier 2 skin, as you can see, now resplendent with antlers. And, yeah, one of the cooler god cards. I mean, this looks like the front of a comic book to me. But yeah, not significant changes as you would come to expect out of the Tier 2 skins, but some nice updates and some little bit of badassery added to him here. And it looks like he's lost the top of the robe and is going it bare-chested and bringing the fury. So yet another, another one in the line of these Tier 2 skins that, for me at least, are some of the cooler things we add to the game each patch. Very, very affordable, and give you a new little flavor and taste to your god. Let's take a look now at Hirez getting a new skin in this patch. And this, of course, we'll get into this a little bit later, but this is a reward for playing in our fantasy game. And there is his skin card. And you can see a little bit of a different mark. We spoiled this in the last show last week, and here he is in action. You can see a little bit of that new tech on his leaf that you guys got in the last patch. And, of course, his new sons.
And kill what you can't see. Sleep tight. Pentakill!
Oh.
Pentakill!
So scary. So yeah, there it is, guys. Nox's announcer pack. There's a quick preview coming your way. More to come in the future as well. We also have a second voice pack that'll be available through that fantasy system. It is, of course, for the most voted god for a announcer pack by a complete landslide. It is, of course, Swagny. Let's take a listen.
Oh, hey, make it rain. I love it when they call me Big Papa. If it don't make dollars, then it don't make sense. I'm not OP, I'm OG. You keep talking like a bitch, I'm gonna have to smack you like one.
And there it is, guys. Swagny's announcer pack, as per usual. Over the top, yet wonderful. And, of course, coming into this next patch as well in the miscellaneous category, we won't actually go through this in line, but those announcer packs will only be playable for you on your client side. So let's take a look at the actual reward structure and how you're going to be able to get these rewards. So as you can see here, guys, starting like what are those, missiles, rockets, something. He's shooting down satellites, I believe. In fact, here nuclear bombs, nuclear, one of those, flying out of the sky, and of course you know who you get pretty well. But there he is. I called him Orbital Biker. That is of course not his name. But let's take a listen to his voice pack. This new ROM skin coming in, 4 fantasy points. Take it away, boys.
Yes. I am the reckoning. Splendid. Sorry. Wasn't that fun? Good luck. Be quiet now. That's too bad. Spend your time wisely. Silence, dog. Your only purpose is to die by my hand. I use a bow because guns are too quick. You can't savor all the little emotions. You other gods are a plague. I am the cure.
And he's got a pretty nice idle animation at that, doesn't he? So you heard the voice pack there, and saw him toss his bow around a little